What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Chi-Town Blitz episode. We got one of our favorite guests. I like to bring him on before the draft, before the start of the season and stuff to break down some Bears content. But our favorite Bears reporter, our favorite Bears analyst, Mr. Zack Pearson. How are we doing today, man?
I'm doing good. You're too kind. You don't have to say all that stuff, trust me. But I do appreciate it. I will not complain about that. I'm doing good, and this is gonna be a busy week at House Hall, so I'm kinda ready to it's better to do this than to sit at home and wait on things, so I'm kinda ready to go here.
And it's a very interesting time too now because instead of pick 10, instead of like an early pick, we got a pick later on in the draft because of the success we had last season. So just makes it a little bit of a waiting game on draft day.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to be picking up in the high 20s because it probably means you did really well,
Mhm.
but, the top 10 picks are a little more exciting in terms of, like,
Yeah.
intrigue. This is like I don't know, I think there's probably, like, 15 names they could even choose from at 25. It's so hard to get a good read on it.
Yeah, I feel like it also depends on what happens prior to that pick, and yeah, that's like picking the lottery at this point. So I think I'm just happy this is the first time there hasn't been a lot of buzz in the off season, whereas usually the off season is our season.
Yeah, I'll just say, man, usually it's like you're just preparing for the off season and, like, that's all the excitement, and then the season hits, and it's just like, it's done by, like, week 10, but not
Exactly.
this off season. This off season was a little interesting and more definitely more intriguing, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's, with this offseason too, like you said, we try to be off-season champs every season. I feel like polls kinda toned it down a little this offseason, in preparation for probably, like, filling the biggest needs in the draft. One thing I wanted to ask you is, like, what are your thoughts heading into, the draft, this new season about the Bears? Usually we talk to you, we're, like, trying to rebuild, trying to get back to contention, but now we're in contention, so what's your thoughts on the team so far?
Yeah, I mean, now it's just kinda sustaining that success, and, like, how do you do that? How do the good teams do that? Through the draft, like, we didn't really see a big trade for the Bears in terms of getting, like, a player, like, no Max Crosby, no Dexter Lawrence, none of that stuff, so now you have to use your draft picks wisely. They got 7 picks, they got an extra second rounder because, they had to move on from DJ Moore, decided to move on from DJ Moore, um, so now you have to sustain that success, and you have to hit on these draft picks. You didn't have a crazy free agency period because you were just kinda hamstrung with, like, what you could do, but, now you're kind of in a way where, like, you're starting to go down the right path, but if you miss on a bunch of picks and, we talked I mean, I think it was Cole Kmet talked about it today, there's a lot of parity in the NFL. Like, it's very hard to even win the division back-to-back years, when you just think of teams that have consistently done it, like the Patriots, all-time great team. I think the Eagles have won it a couple times and won the Super Bowl between the Chiefs, all-time great team. So, yeah, it's really hard to do that, and this is the important stuff. You can make the free agency signings, but this is the important stuff because hitting on draft picks means you don't have to pay these rookies for another 4
Right.
years. So your
Mhm.
window
It's
kinda gets
everything.
extended. Yep.
Where the Bears rank in terms of how much capital they can unload to get um certain certain people, whether it's draft or free agency, we just don't have the same wiggle room or the luxury
Yep.
that some of these teams have. So the draft is everything. And last year was really promising. Obviously, our leading receiver being our first overall pick. So I think the combination of Poles and Ben has been a really good one in terms of identifying talent and pulling the trigger. So we'll see what they can do with that second round pick, and then obviously pick 25.
Yeah, and I think, like, having Ben Johnson obviously, like, helps. I think he was a big factor in taking,
Right.
like, the offensive players, but, like, now you're gonna kinda see, like, Dennis Allen's gonna try and get, like, players that fit his scheme in, and that's kinda where it begins here. Like, you still need a starting safety, still need a probably, another edge rusher, could add another defensive tackle, you could add a linebacker, you could add a defensive back. Um, yeah, I mean, you just Now you have to build your defense, and you see why the draft's so important because like look at the Giants. They couldn't come to an agreement with Dexter Lawrence because the prices keeps going up and up and up, so they have to flip them. So a lot of teams have to deal with it. But the teams that draft well are usually the teams that are pretty good, and it starts with hitting on the quarterback and then drafting well after that.
Yeah, 100%. With like heading into the draft right now, you mentioned like a safety. What like pick 25, what like do you think the Bears' biggest needs are right now in that area, those first, 3 picks and this first through second round? What areas are the most important that we need to hit?
Yeah, I think 25 can be anything but quarterback, running back, tight end, um, wide receiver. There'd be like one guy that if he fell, if it was like Jordan Tyson fell, I think you kind of you give it a look. I don't know if you pick it, but you give it a look. Offensive tackle, I think, could definitely be in play there.
Yeah.
And I think any position on defense is certainly in play for 25. Um,
Sure.
but to answer the question, I think let's say those first 3 picks is that's 3 picks in the top 60. I think you have to come away with a starting safety. I think you have to come away with a probably another offensive tackle, and then I'd say and or an edge rusher or a defensive back. Now, any 3 of those 4, I would be very happy with. And I think honestly, like the one position I think a lot of people are kind of just like sleeping on or like is defensive back. I
Yeah.
mean, look at it this like, how many games did Jalen Johnson miss? How many games did Kyler Gordon miss? You don't have Nashawn Wright to kind of fall back on. You don't have CJ Gardner Johnson to fall back on. You lost 3 of your top 4 safeties. Um, so yeah, I mean, are you going to trust Tyreek Stevenson? Like, I think people think like it's an automatic he's going to starter. I don't think it's automatic starter. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I I think there'd be a competition. Do you trust Terrell Smith coming off a really tough knee injury? Do you trust
Or
Frazier?
Frazier, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't in the building until late August, early September. So I think like all those positions are in play, but I the one I really want to see him get, I want to see him get like a versatile defensive back. I want to see him get someone who can play kind of like safety, corner, boundary, nickel, someone like that. Because I think that's what Dennis Allen really wants. There's a lot of versatility back there.
If you had to pick, if you were in the driver's seat, if you were Ryan Poles, who are you taking
Man.
at 25?
At 25, um, I've stuck with this guy, and I thought for sure they were gonna take him after the combine. I'm still gonna pick it because I just dug my feet too much into it. I think it's gonna be Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I think it's
I
gonna be
wouldn't
a
be mad
safety.
at that, bro. He's
I think it's
nice.
gonna be a Toledo safety. He had a bunch of forced fumbles. He's lengthy. He can, cover a lot of ground. Um, I think he can even play a little bit of the hybrid type, like defensive back safety. I think though that's who I'm sticking with. But I do think if they don't go safety, I think it's gonna be an edge rusher. I think it'll be like Zion Young or Keldrick Falk, someone like that. I do like that kid from USC or UCF. I think it's Malachi Lawrence
Yeah,
who's
he's
kind of shooting
nice.
up the board. Um, it wouldn't be surprising to me if they took him at 25. He's got a second round grade. I see a lot of mock drafts or second round. He kind of feels like a Ryan Poles like traits. Let's take a chance on this guy,
Yeah.
like player.
Like the production didn't matter as much. He just got the speed, got the
Yeah,
athleticism. Yeah, I could see
yeah.
that.
But I
Um,
do think like Akeem Mesidor, I think is a name to watch. And I think a lot of people don't like him because of his age, and I'm
yeah.
kind of not big on him. But I think it was the Ringer that was talking about it. He's 25. It's an older prospect, but they pretty much basically said if you're in win now mode and your Windows now and you need an edge rusher and he's there, that's the guy they take because his best football is probably going to be early, and that's your rookie contract. You know what I mean? So that could be someone. There's just so many options. Like I said, it's like 15 to 20 guys. I think they could take at 25.
And he's a game wrecker. Like you throw him in there, and I think he could compete with Booker
Yeah,
and Sweat right off the bat. I mean, just watching the Miami games, yeah, him and Ruben
crazy,
Bain.
crazy defense, man.
Yeah, they were monsters. Even looking at but going previously to the draft, like, what was your opinion on the moves or lack of moves in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, they signed what, 4 defensive tackles? I think
Mhm.
that tells you, like, they're trying to stop the run. That's probably the
Yep.
first thing. And I think the second thing is, you know, they gotta get a pass rusher. I think they're comfortable with Austin Booker. The problem is, which pass rusher was out there that you could afford? Like, they weren't gonna go with 2 first rounders for Max Crosby. It wasn't gonna happen. And I was on the Max Crosby, but I thought you go out there and you get a game wrecker like that, that totally changes your defense. But,
Mhm.
um, I guess to answer the question, they were in a tough spot. They were in a really tough spot with the money. And it goes back to this is what happens when you sign Dio Domingo to that deal, and this is what happens when you extend money and you sign big deals. Like, I don't know, like, we could be talking about Jalen Johnson, this is last season here. Like, that's because of the money and all that. They could extend them too, they couldn't move money, but I think Ryan Poles didn't want to necessarily move money down the line and have to eventually pay that.
Yeah, I was
Right.
surprised about not doing any of those restructuring contract moves.
Yeah, I believe they're gonna have to. I think they might have just enough for the draft. If not, like, they're right on the edge where they might have to make a move. Um, but I think, there was no, sexy moves in free agency besides Kobe Bryant, I think, and Devin Bush. But I think the one thing it told us was they want speed on that defense, man. Like, they wanna get fast because, like, I thought Tremaine Edmonds played at a high level, but every time you watch him against a running back or, like, a wide receiver, he was getting burned. And it's just what it is. Um, the safeties, I loved Kevin Byard. I thought he was great. I thought Jaquan Brisker had his best game as a Bear in that playoff game,
Yeah, he was
but
amazing,
you
yeah.
gotta get yeah, you gotta get speed. Like, speed is what kills. It feels like, when you used to play Madden 10, 15 years ago, everyone just fast wide receivers. It kinda feels like the
Right.
NFL kinda trending towards that.
Right.
Fast, fast, fast.
Even yeah, like there's so many like especially how Dennis Allen likes to play more like pass coverage, nickel, a lot of that. Devin Bush, Kobe Bryant, those guys add that versatility. I'm really excited about those moves. We talked a little bit about some guys that could be on the outs. One question I wanted to ask you is motivated Dio Dangbo, Grady Jarrett. Should we expect anything from them this year?
I think Jarrett more than anyone you'd have a chance to. I don't think you can just count on Dio. Like, I think it's gonna be a signing where you're just gonna chalk it up, it's gonna be a loss. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be after this year, he probably get out of the contract. Um, yeah, Grady, I know he was dealing with, like, a leg injury, so he probably wasn't fully healthy, but you're also it's a guy on the backside of his career. That's a good guy if you have a dominant nose tackle. Like, if you have a Dexter Lawrence or something like that, that's a good complementary piece, and I think they kinda thought maybe Gervon Dexter could take that next step. Um but there's a reason why they signed 4 defensive tackles. They're just gonna be rotating those bodies in, which, yeah, I think is their plan, like, keep guys fresh. You don't have to have Grady Jarrett play all these snaps he's a veteran, it is what it is. Um, but yeah, I don't know, I don't feel a lot better about the defensive line than I did last year. It's hard to, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless Gervon Dexter takes a huge step forward, like, it's gonna be pretty much the same thing, I think.
Yeah, and he was somebody that I thought is potentially gonna be on the outs too if he doesn't have a good season
Yeah.
this year. I think he was in trade talks. They were reportedly taking calls on him. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Austin Booker though looked pretty big. I've seen him in a workout.
Yeah.
It's hard to get hyped about the offseason workouts, but like Booker looked pretty big in the photo.
Yeah, he was like standing next to him, he's pretty ripped anyway as it is, like, he got bigger. Um, he's gotta stay healthy though, like, that's
Yeah.
kinda the thing, he's not gonna be a 15, 16 sack guy, but, like, he gets you 8, 9 sacks, like, you're gonna get something from Montez Sweat, and if they draft an edge rusher, like, they don't even have to draft an edge rusher to come in and be a starter right away, like, if you could get from a rookie, if you could get 5 sacks, you could get 6, 7 sacks from Austin Booker, and they're playing rotational pieces. I mean, that I would be totally fine with that. They just have to get more production than they got last year.
What's your ceiling on Austin Booker? I think Micah is a big, big fan.
He always talking shit about Booker, bro.
I just
I
don't
mean,
know. There's there's some boom and bust there, I feel like, and he's got a big frame, but it's even if in the pictures, I mean, I know he's taller, so it might be misleading, but it wasn't something I was wowed by.
It's interesting because, man, you watch from the preseason and you're like, "Wow," like, "Okay, this
Mhm.
dude." But then you watch me at the real games, and it's like he'll make plays, he'll get stuffed. Um, I guess by ceiling on him, I think he'd be like, at best, 10 sack guy, maybe 11 sack guy. Not awful, but like at the same time, like, what was he drafted? Was he drafted a 5th round? Was he a 5th round pick? 4th round?
4th or 5th round, yeah.
Yeah.
We
I
traded
mean,
back in the 4th or 5th round to get him, or
that was that
Yeah, I
draft
wanna
where
say 4th.
they were like just trading nonstop. Yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know. I think he can be a good player. But again, it go back to me. It goes, you have to be healthy. Like you can have the big preseason, you can come on strong late in the season. You still got to be healthy though. Like that, the best ability is availability. I mean, that's just what it is. I think that's what it comes down to for him. But generally, I think with like some of these guys that kind of have Austin Booker's like makeup, year 3 is kind of where you see like, okay, can he play or not? This you're gonna know now. Like if he stays healthy, you're gonna know this year can he play or not.
yeah, he had some good flashes, like, the Packers games, he
Yeah,
Mhm.
destroyed Jordan Love.
yeah.
He's shown it in some flashes.
True.
Another guy I wanted to ask you about, Shamar Turner. It seems like they're kinda banking on him to, like, see something from him too this year.
Yeah, they, I think Ryan Poles said he liked where he kinda was on that trajectory before he got hurt, um, which, all I can do is just trust them because, I mean, I'm not, like, an expert on any of that stuff, to be honest, but, you know, 2nd round pick last year, you gotta have something from him. Like, again, you gotta stay healthy. I do think he kind of fits what Dennis Allen really wants, and I think that was kind of the idea in drafting him is like, "Okay, this is a guy that can play on the edge. We can move on, inside, different packages." I was kinda excited to see what they came up with in terms of pass rush downs and things like that. And he'll be in the mix too. Like, you might be able to, draft an edge rusher that, like, let's say Mesidor. He comes in, he can be your first, second down pass rusher, you rotate in Austin Booker. You can rotate Shamar Turner in. You got 3rd down, it's an obvious pass rush situation. You could have, you know, Montez, you could have Turner, you can have Booker or the rookie kind of send 3 guys and you can kind of line them up in different spots because we saw him line up Montez inside a couple times
Mhm.
to try and get pressure. So, yeah, again, he's got to stay healthy. I think, it's early to give up on him. Watching his tape, I believe at what A&M, I think it was. Yeah, the Shamar brothers with, Stewart and Turner, like, he played with, like, that intensity you want. Like, sometimes he tiptoe the line, but, like, you kinda
Yeah.
need that nasty on the defense. Like, the Bears didn't have, like, they just didn't have, like, to me, all the time, like, that guy that just, like, there's obviously a boundary, but, like, you didn't have that guy that was just gonna wreck a game or get kinda like that nastiness to him that you kinda need. Like, I always say, like, you kinda want guys that are just loose screws, like, you don't know what's gonna happen. So you need that sometimes,
Yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
need a guy like that to kinda set the tone.
I saw that, yeah, him at Texas A&M, he had a couple moments like that. There's a difference between, him and sometimes Tyreek Stevenson when
Yeah,
he
yeah, there's a difference, yes. I don't want, like, yeah, don't go that far to it.
So it sounds like the approach for the D line is death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I mean, they're gonna, like, I'm curious because, like, I still don't think, like, we can rule out defensive tackle in the draft either. Like,
Yeah.
Peter
I think
Woods
we
wouldn't be
can.
mad, wouldn't be
Yeah,
bad.
and I think you could probably, like, Caleb Banks is a kid from Florida. I think you can probably rule him probably out due to that foot injury. I just don't think they're ready to risk that unless he fell. Like we saw, like a Shador Sanders type fall or something like that, or like even a Luther Burden, but maybe like to the 3rd or 4th round, possibly. But yeah, like Peter Woods, any of those guys, Caden McDonald, I think someone you could probably see. I would not shock me at all if they went defense tackle, despite signing for him because you can get out of some of these contracts. Like it's not the end of the world. I kind of feel the same way about offensive tackle. Like if you bring in an offensive tackle, you could get out of a Braxton Jones or a Jedrick Willis. Theo Benedict could be on the out. It just to me, there's like not many like cemented, guaranteed spots in those positions.
Yeah. In your opinion, what would be that like Kristaps Porzingis pick where you're like, oh fuck no at pick
Oh,
25?
obviously like running back or tight end, but I would probably say
Like
of
Jadarian
the
Price at 25 or something.
yeah, like I don't know because here's the thing, like all these edge rushers, like they all have question marks. So if I were to say like one of the edge rushers, it wouldn't be fair because I have a question mark on another edge rusher. Like
Yeah.
there's not one. I mean, obviously Caleb Banks would be like the oh my god no, like at 25. Um, I would probably say, man, it's a good question. Um, I'd probably say one of the offensive tackles not named Caden Proctor or the kid from Arizona State. I still think Lamu, I would be a little from Utah. I know they had him in for a visit. A center would be a no, I'm good on that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like I said, it's tough to grade a lot of these players because, like, Daniel Jeremiah at the combine said, you're going to find starters from 20 to even 60, 65.
Mm.
Like, there's a wide range of players. And I just think with so many of them having like question marks, you can find a negative on Mesidor, you can find a negative on TJ Parker. Yeah, I think TJ Parker probably the one I'd be like on. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Honestly, none would be like crazy shocking either ways for me. It's a bad answer.
Nah, you're
It's
good, man. It's so many things could happen. I honestly wouldn't be mad if we traded down too to get some more
yeah.
picks in that sweet spot.
Especially when you look at the reels that came out after we beat the Packers in the playoffs, and they were laughing at us for taking Colston Love.
Oh man,
I
there's
thought
that
that was gonna be a
one.
bad pick too. I was kind of
Oh,
I
yeah, we
wanted
were
Tyler
all like,
Warren.
"What?" We were just confused,
I
but
know.
once I saw the
No,
tape,
me.
I saw the growth, and he's a younger guy, like, he checked a lot of boxes, so I saw the vision. I'm just concerned about the defensive line, so hopefully we
Yes.
could pluck a guy for that position, regardless of where it's at on the line, that could really unlock the rest of the players because I feel like we got a lot of Bs and Cs. Um, so if we can get an A, that would be a home run. Um, because the division is only getting tougher. Now we sit in the
Yeah,
division where look at the quarterbacks. You got Kyler
Kyler's gonna be
Murray
better,
inserted
bro.
into that. Oh,
But
I
yeah,
agree too. He's
yeah.
gonna have a chip on his shoulder. He's gonna have a way better coaching staff around him, way better athletes. And you already know what Detroit and Green Bay pose as threats. So yeah, to your point earlier, it's tough to repeat. And the formula for us winning last year is not going to be able to be sustainable. You saw the Chiefs the year they were winning all these close games. The very next year they lost all of the same games. So
Every
it's
game.
like this shit. Yeah, I'm. That's just me speaking as a concerned fan.
You know what? To go back to that last question, all right, I thought of one. Blake Miller, the offensive tackle from
Yeah,
Clemson,
Clemson.
that'd be a no for
I
me.
like that.
And Avion Terrell from Clemson, the defensive back. I'd be fine with like Colton Hood. I'd even be fine with trading Stokes, the
I like
Arizona kid.
yeah, the
I
Arizona
think you
guy's
could
good.
get him later on. I think Jalen Kilgore you can get later on. Yeah, those would be the two. But like to speak to your point, that like there is a lot of parity, and like the NFC North got better. Like, are the
Hmm.
Lions going to have that? The Lions didn't even have like it was a bad year, but it wasn't a bad year. You know
They
what I
still
mean? Like,
whooped us.
yeah, they still beat the Bears twice. They pretty much were a crazy play at the end from getting to the playoffs, losing to the Steelers at home. They had a bad week one against the Packers. They just didn't look prepared. Minnesota, like I don't think Kyler's like a Hall of Famer, but he's way better than Jason
JJ.
McCarthy, and if you could get Justin Jefferson the ball anywhere near 2-3 yards radius, like and Jordan Addison. Now, I mean, they could go. I think honestly, the Vikings could go tight end if Sadiq falls to
Sadiq,
them from
that'd be
Oregon.
crazy.
I mean, look at like every NFC North team has a dominant tight end, except for them. Like Hawkinson is good, but
The
he's
injuries
not.
kind of, fell.
Yeah, yeah, he's not prime TJ Hawkinson. You get the best tight end prospect, and he turns out to be what Kraft or Loveland. any of those guys, like, even if it turns out to be like Cole Kmet, like, that's still a win for them. That's better for their offense.
Yeah, 100%. Getting back a little more about to the draft, Ryan Poles, he's had his, misses. Some of them have been colossal in the draft. But this year, entering the draft where it's a prime year to get it right in the draft, how confident are you in him to get the right picks and, knock it out?
I'm confident because he's got Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen. Um, but I'm also weary because he lost Ian Cunningham.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys remember, but when they drafted Roma Dunze, Ryan Poles wanted to trade up for him. And Ian Cunningham had to tell him, no, 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 he'll be there. Don't worry, let it play out. Thankfully, Atlanta drafted Michael Penix, which pretty much led to them getting Rome. But I'm more confident than I have been in years, just because I saw, last year, like you guys said, like I was like, why didn't they take Tyler Warren? And then I like the next couple of days, I watched the tape. I'm like, okay, I can see what they want in this offense. Um, they went out and drafted Luther Burden, who was, fell, and he felt like the slam dunk pick right there. They flat out said he wanted Travian Henderson. He wanted the Oregon running back. There's a couple other running backs they targeted. So I think he's kind of on the right track. He found Kyle Monangai, who picked in the 7th round, probably a top 5, 6 rookie running back
Yeah.
from last year's
No
class,
question.
which is really damn good. Like, that's a damn good rookie running back class last year. Um, so yeah, I feel more confident. I do, and I think Jeff King's been there a while. The assistant GM. I think he knows what it's like to be in that war room. He knows Ben Johnson's got his input, and they have very, very, very smart assistant coaches. Like, all those guys are very smart and knowledgeable. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, a lot of guys with a lot of experience and stuff. Pigging back on like a Kyle Monangai pick, those kind of really good values. Caleb Williams obviously would be an obvious answer, but in your opinion, what's been your favorite or best Ryan Poles pick that he's had so far in his tenure?
I would say Luther Burden.
Okay.
That's a good one.
I
LB3.
I mean, dude, like, last year, I went and looked at some mocks. So it had been the start of the 2025 college season, like right as training camps were kicking off. A lot of mocks had Luther Burden as a top 5 pick. Like, it was a no
Damn.
surefire, no doubt prospect. And I think, some of the taking the plays off, and like Missouri just wasn't as good. They had injuries,
Quarterback
kind of
was
hurt us.
bogus.
Yeah, had it hurt his stock. Um, but yeah, I think Luther Burden was, for me, it was an obvious pick. So it wasn't anything groundbreaking or anything like that. It wasn't a dime in the rough. But man, I just love how Luther Burden plays. And everyone
Me
thought, oh, he's
too.
gonna be a problem. Like, he's gonna be an issue in Chicago. He doesn't How is he gonna split time with DJ Moore and Roma Dunze? It was just like the Caleb Williams stuff, man. You never saw any of that stuff, like, ever. He's just total opposite of what you saw. It's like the exact same thing with Caleb Williams. So yeah, I love that pick. Trying to think of another one really quick. Trying to figure out one on like defense.
I was big on the Kyler Gordon one. That was probably my
Tyler
favorite pick,
Gordon.
but the injuries really have kind of lessened that excitement about
Yeah, no
him.
question.
Yeah, I was trying to think here. I was big. I liked Terrell Smith when he came out just because of the speed.
Decent rookie year.
Um, yeah, and he's kind of got to get healthy and fit. When I believe, not a draft pick though, but my favorite, and this guy from the start, you can kind of tell like he belonged. He just never got the chance. Josh Blackwell, when he came
Yeah.
undrafted from Philadelphia, and talking to him, you could just see like, okay, like he kind of like he knew like, all right, special teams is where I have to absolutely dig in and win there, because he wasn't going to get a starting spot in the secondary. So yeah, I'd say probably Luther, and then my favorite undrafted would probably be like Josh Blackwell.
Yeah, Blackwell, man. How many game-winning plays has he made on special teams?
Look, okay, so
Crazy.
last year, the end of the 2025 season, they run that fake punt against Green Bay, right? And he brings a touchdown back. They win the game from that. I talked to him last offseason. And he's like, "Yeah, we looked at that all offseason. Like, that was our all right, we're ready. Like, we got a new coach, we're ready. We know we can take the next step." And I think being Green Bay really helped a lot of those players' confidence in there, and it starts with him. He's made there was games, I think it was against either Green Bay or Minnesota, a primetime game his first year here, like 2024, I wanna say. He was thrown in, and he played really well at defensive back. So, yeah, I mean, he's made some really good plays.
Yeah, he recovered the onside kick against the Packers in that
Onside
first
kick,
game, the second game when we won.
blocked the field goal
Yeah.
against the Raiders. He's
Dude,
good,
he's
man.
a
He's a
monster.
yes.
Yeah, I think I just needed some closure on the DJ Moore route at the end of the game. I was at the game, I couldn't see
Let's
shit,
do it,
but I
man.
felt it. I played Madden probably, just a couple times a day,
Running up the score against him.
but after that, I couldn't do it for months. You know what I'm saying? Like, was it a loaf? Was it just a misunderstanding? Do you feel like Ben Johnson learned from that? Maybe be more conservative in those situations, which I feel like I feel I don't agree with that necessarily. But what was your takeaway from how things ended after that magical season?
Yeah, I don't like, I had no issue with the play call because I think
Hmm.
if you go back and watch, if that timing's on, that's a big play. Like, they're
Yep.
right there in field goal range. I mean,
Yep.
that they had it set up completely perfect.
Yep.
Was it a loaf? Man, I don't know. I have to stop using that because I used loaf one time on Twitter for Justin Fields and everyone came after me. Um, yeah,
Hey,
I
he
got
got
the
some
whole
deep
The
coat.
Jay Fields fans was crazy
man,
in
this
Chicago.
was the Dallas game. Remember where he fumbled and he's like stood there and
Yeah.
like Parsons
Hmm.
just
I know
yeah.
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
Probably wasn't a full loaf, but it just was a play in my head where I was like, you gotta like you can't Cam Newton it. Like
You're right.
Yeah.
but it was tough, man, because like going back, like I said, going back and watching it, you could see it. I mean, that is perfect. It's like that crosser route right there.
Hmm.
Like I think if he rounds it off a little better, it's a big play. I also hate like questioning players' effort or anything like that. It's just, you know, um, I do think it was a bad look though not to talk to the media after the game
Yeah.
and not
I
to
think that's
talk,
what really sealed it.
yes, in the locker room or at clean out day. And people are like, well, he doesn't have to talk and it doesn't not important, but it is important because to me, he's gonna like, by not talking, you open up the door for all of what happened. Whose
Yeah.
fault is it? Even if he said it was my fault and Caleb said it was like his own, Caleb took the blame and DJ took the blame, that's better than nothing. The thing to remember though, I don't know if you guys go back and watch that game. DJ was getting checked out for, I think, a concussion earlier, like a couple
Mm.
plays before, earlier in the fourth quarter. So maybe he didn't talk because of the concussion. Um, It sucks because I like DJ. DJ is a great person in general.
Seemed cool. Yeah.
Yeah, always answer your questions. But they were just in a spot, man, where they had to make a move. And I think if they didn't get Luther Burden last year or Colston Loveland, I don't think they make this trade. I think they
That's a
feel
good point.
so comfortable, like that they have these guys. And I think they're gonna take a wide receiver too. And you add Khalif Raymond. So yeah, it's like bittersweet because like, I look at it this way, it could have been a lot worse. Like he could have gone Cleveland, you know, somewhere like that, like somewhere Arizona, like, you get to live in Arizona, but
Raiders.
like yeah, Raiders. Like I think Ryan Poles did a good job of sending him to a quarterback that, is probably gonna be in the running for an MVP again this year. He'll always be there.
Question.
So it it sucks, man, because that was just such a hard like after that whole play at the end, and then they get to stop, they go right down the field, and you're
Yeah,
like, "Ooh,
we should have blew him out too, man. We
yeah, they're gonna
had
win this
him.
game." Yeah, it just
That was
it
probably
was
the closest we had to win out of all the games
yeah.
that led up to that point. When you think about it, you're going in at halftime down 10-7 or whatever it was. You're feeling fantastic
Oh, yeah. I mean,
as
dude, they
opposed
had
to down 21.
yeah, and, like, I know the weather was bad, but, like, Puka made some plays, but it wasn't, like,
No,
No,
Puka
yeah.
they
was
shut
just
them. The defense showed up.
yeah. the defense played like I said, Jaquan Brisker probably had his best game as a Bear. He was
Mhm.
all over the place. Yeah, it sucks. It's hard watching like good players like that go, but
Right.
you gotta trust what their process is.
I liked how
100%.
Caleb answered that question too about him going. Um,
Yeah,
but it's also cool that Ryan Poles, I feel like he takes care of the guys. Like he'll send you somewhere that it's going to be a good spot for you and you're going to win.
yeah,
He really, really does that consistently. Um, one last question I had for you though. In your opinion, 2026 NFL draft, what does like a perfect draft look like for the Bears? What are some, players or, draft selection position wise that would be like perfect for the Bears?
yeah. 25 impact starter right away. Safety, OT, edge rusher. Um, Coming out of day 2 where you feel like you have 3 players that could start minimum. And then at the end of the draft, I think overall you have to address OT, defensive back, safety, edge rusher, linebacker, and I think wide receiver. Hitting on a 7th round pick, you have 2 7th round picks. They're lottery tickets. Ryan Poles has hit on them before. Hit on Kyle
Managa.
Monangai.
Yeah.
I think filling those needs is very important. Yeah, I'd be fine with that draft. I think if you come away, you get McNeil Warren, you get, let's say, like Lawrence in a second, you get Stokes or whatever, or Kilgore, and you come away with the wide receiver, the Ole Miss kid, I'm Stribling. I think that would be, to me, that's an
I think
ideal.
he's a perfect fit. Yeah.
I just gave you my final mock draft, so there you go. You get all my
Yes,
early,
sir.
Appreciate
all
it.
my all my early picks. I will say one kid I like, and it's because he's a local kid too, and he's got NIU ties. He started NIU, went
The
to Florida.
Howard, yeah.
No, no,
Gil Howard. Oh no.
Gums. I think it's George Gums Jr.
Oh yeah, from Florida, the edge. Yeah.
Yeah, from Chicago. Dad is a diehard Bears fan. I talked to him at the combine. Went to NIU, tight end, switched to edge. You don't
He
go to
had a good year
Florida.
too.
Yeah, you don't go to Florida just because like
Oh,
they're
that's a
picking you.
fucking
Yeah, they're picking you for a reason. As
Right.
bad as Florida's been, they're still picking you. To
No
go
question.
Mac to SEC, he'd be a good 7th round pick for me. And we know how much Ryan Poles likes his local kids. Max Tomzak, kid from Youngstown State, wide receiver. D2, nephew of Mike Tomzak, of old Bears quarterback. Undrafted
Mm.
prospect, probably. I would keep an eye on him too. I think he
Okay.
could get an early
Dang.
call. So
And yeah,
that's
Post
it for
has
me.
always hit out the park with the undrafted guys. Great track record.
Question.
Brought Jack
Yeah.
Sanborn back.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a perfect lineup and perfect mock. Appreciate you for that. Thank you for coming on again. You always
Anytime,
give
guys.
us the best content, best
Yes.
analysis possible, and you got
Hey.
me excited for the draft. Post has to hit out the park, and if he follows your blueprint, he will. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to check out Zack Pearson's content on X. Follow up with him. He has done a great job covering the Bears. Check out him on Bears Wire too. But yeah, make sure to like and subscribe on the Chi-Town Blitz YouTube channel. Check us out on all social medias. Thank you guys again. As always, thank you again, Zack, for coming on.
Anytime.
And peace. But I would want him to get an extension done with, Keenan Allen. I would want him to stay with the Chicago Bears for maybe 2 or 3 more years because he's coming off his best season last year with the Chargers.